welcome agents. The devs have confirmed the PTS closure date, when Title Update 3 will be coming with the raid and a lot of patch notes. Now today I want to go over everything, so if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button below and subscribe for dedicated Division content. And with that said, let's get into this. Okay, so to start off with, and kind of not to beat around the bush, the news we have got today, aside from a few things, sound very much like last week's State of the Game news, because this is kind of the confirmed patch notes for Title Update 3.0, which is coming next week. Now the devs have not confirmed when next week, but they said it would be early next week, so I'm thinking Monday or Tuesday. The devs also confirmed the raid will be coming out a little bit after the title update, so this will allow players to create builds and prepare for the raid, because this update is going to vastly change the game, and I've done various videos about what's going to be changing. It appears to be more focused around tanky builds, so this will give us a bit of time just to create those builds for the raid. Again, more info on this will be coming next week, so that's the good news. I think I'm glad it's actually going to be coming out next week. We've been waiting a very long time, so yeah, that's all good. Now let's go over everything the devs talked about in the order they discussed them. Okay, so as usual, tomorrow we'll be getting the maintenance from 9:30 to 12:30. These are no changes going to be involved in this, just your routine maintenance back on the servers and stuff. They went on to talk about the invaded strongholds and the stuff that's been going around. I actually did a video again about this recently, and what they've said is they're random. You know, that's not going to change. They've heard what everyone said, but they're still going to stay as random, so you know, we just have to pray and hope that capital will be available for anyone who needs the last part. So yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. They went on to talk about Korean characters and how they haven't been working properly in text chat. Apparently, when you input Korean characters in text chat and you submitted it, it would actually just pick a random assortment of Korean characters, and as you can imagine, it caused quite a lot of problems. And this will be fixed in Title Update 3 for any of you Koreans out there who watch any of my videos. Now they went on to talk about gear score changes, and particularly 515. So recently they said that 515 gear would be available in the DZ. Originally they said it would be DZ specific to the occupied dark zone, and the reason they did that is because they wanted to make it more appealing. They wanted the dark zone to become the place where people need to go, and that's because the dark zone is one of the big selling points of this game. Obviously they changed that and they said 515 gear would be available in the raid and other places as well, but they've actually gone back on that entirely now, and they've decided actually they're not going to increase gear score at all. They're going to leave it at 500. That will be the max gear for everyone in sort of the main activities, and they've said that 500 gear will be more generous and predictable, and the reason they want to do that is so that you can play your favorite activity and be rewarded. What they didn't want to do was have everyone up to 500 and then increase this gear score for the raid so that people felt as though all this hard work was basically lost. I kind of think it's a good thing they've just left it at 500, but we'll have to see how that plays out, and you guys will have to let me know what you think about that. Now the devs went on to talk about matchmaking in Australia. Apparently the waiting times were really long, which you could probably expect, and it's for a couple of reasons. I mean, due to the small player base and due to the small population. Initially they were only looking at matchmaking within the Australian servers, and that's due to latency. You know, trying to ping across the world is going to cause problems with that, and they've been tweaking it, and they did start sending people out of Australia once they were waiting for too long, but they've now reverted back to it being just using Australian servers. So anyone in Australia, you might find that is going to be quite long matchmaking, but you shouldn't have bad latency. You should have a good connection, and I think connection is always important. This is something that's ongoing and they're going to keep looking at. Now these patch notes that they've confirmed are not finalized, but they are kind of what is going to be coming, at least for right now. Now they have confirmed that some commendations have been removed, and they were due to the fact that there were some commendations which required you to sort of log in every day, and they didn't think that was fair. And what they've done is they've added new commendations without the login requirements. Anyone who had actually completed the commendations which required login requirements, to sort of compensate, they are going to be giving you a vanity patch. Now new commendations will be more like cumulative time rather than daily logins. So for example, a new combination called Distinguished Service Distinction, which is complete 30 hours of service, that's more in line with what they expected. And there'll be a new accommodation as well for acquiring all the snitch cards. I believe there's accommodations for acquiring all the sets, but there wasn't one for actually acquiring all of them, so that will be new, and there's going to be a lot more of those which will be included in the final patch notes. Crafting, they've increased the base cap of materials and all that sort of stuff by 200. It will be up to 600 now, which is, again, the more the merrier in this department, at least in my opinion, so that's good to hear. we have the new crafting event now, which is Anaya, so that's really good, and this should offer stuff like blueprints and all that sort of good stuff. They've said that crafted exotics will always craft to the max gear score within your world tier. Again, that's brilliant news. It's nothing worse than craft an exotic and it being below your gear score, so that shouldn't be an issue with Title Update 3. And just to remind you guys, this is all coming in Title Update 3, this is not now. Okay, so they want to talk about gear sets and how they're kind of underpowered, at least within the community, and what people are talking about. And I'd have to agree they are a little bit underpowered. They've now said that bonus armor is granted on blue attribute gear is significantly increased. The armor percent, which is a new attribute, can now be found on defense attribute rolls, as well as a health percent, which can be found as well. And I talked about this in a recent video. Hardwire now grants skill damage instead of shock duration. The ongoing directive now grants special ammo into any weapon, including the weapon currently equipped, and it now grants on any kill, not just on weapon. My question about this is, are they going to fix the special ammo glitch, which means you can take it into the Dark Zone? They've not talked about that. I'd hope they would have today, but they haven't. So again, something that the devs really need to look at, because from my understanding, it's not been fixed. True Patra is decreased the debuff cycle by 4 seconds to 2 seconds. And they've increased damage dealt to nearby targets when full flag is active by 50%. I really like that second part. I think the first part is really good as well. Anything they can do to make these gear sets feel like gear sets is good. Obviously, they don't want to be something which you have to use, but they want to be viable. So anything they can do to help that is good, in my opinion. Now, they went on to talk about loot. They've improved the quality and quantity of drone helicopter loot. They've also reduced the quality of items from clan caches. I never saw this as a problem. Did any of you guys see clan caches, the quality of these pieces of gear being a problem? I never thought they were really good items anyway, so I'm a little bit confused by that, but maybe, you know, they've had a lot of feedback on that, so maybe I just don't know. They've increased the ammo drop chance from NPCs. Again, that's really important, certainly on higher difficulty activities where you'd run out of ammo very quickly. This should stop that ultimately. The DC contaminated will now drop below... DC contaminated gear will not drop below player gear score and will drop at 500 when your gear score is 500. So that's a really good change. I mean, it ultimately means if you're at 500, then you're going to want to go into and you're in the DZ, then you're going to be getting gear score 500 stuff. But if you're lower than that, then again, it's great because you'll be able to get gear that's at your level, if not higher, which is good. Now, heroic, stronghold, and bounty bosses and checkpoint level 4 reward containers will guarantee 500 gear score when you have reached 500 gear score. So they've made the change to the DZ for the PvP players, and they're making the change for PvE so that you don't have to go into the Dark Zone to get the max gear stuff. You can just do heroic, stronghold, bounty bosses, as well as checkpoint level 4 rewards containers that will give you that stuff as well. Now, they've gone on to say that they've reduced the chances of items dropping below player gear score, and this is across the board. So regardless of what gear score you're at, they've reduced those chances so that you should see more often than not that you're getting gear at your level or above if it can be. And they've guaranteed 500 gear score items from daily, hard and challenging missions as well. So if you don't have the gear to do heroic or stronghold or bounty bosses and stuff, and you just want to do daily hard missions, you can, and you'll get that guaranteed 500 gear. Now, I've got a new feature, again, something I've talked about recently, which is the post-mission activity summary. It's kind of like an expanded look at a variety of different statistics, so damage dealt, healing, all of that good stuff, and I think is a good addition. It kind of adds that very sort of competitive nature within groups, which I think is important for people, certainly for groups and for solo players. I mean, if you're always want to try to do better, this is a good way of tracking just how good you're doing. And also, you know, if you're in a group and someone's not pulling their weight, again, this is a way of helping them do that. Now, the bank headquarters and Roosevelt difficulty has been reduced for solo players as well. The Orcs skill battery will be coming in Title Update 3. The recalibration will no longer go over 500 because now they're going to have the recalibration score out of 100. So you have, say, a 500 piece of gear, for example, and then you want to recalibrate it. No longer will it increase your gear score, but instead it will give you a recalibration score out of 100, and that determines the quality of the gear that you have. I.e., if, for example, you've got 1% crit chance and it can go up to 10%, then, you know, if you put that up to 10%, it would go up to 100. I hope that makes sense to you guys. I'm sure it does. Now, they've decreased damage of veteran and elite and named NPCs. They've greatly decreased melee damage of all tank NPCs, they've moderately decreased melee damage on all non-tanky NPCs, and they've decreased the throwers' NPC accuracy of grenades. They did say they no longer want this to be sort of professional baseball pitches. A lot of NPC nerfs here, and it kind of goes on actually indirectly. So the civilian control point officer now wears pants. I didn't even realise they didn't, and now wears protective body armour. I think that's good that they've added that. Upgrading a settlement now increases civilian damage. Civilian hostages are now protective of their lives rather than just sort of running into someone and dying. They will actually try and escape and stay alive. Again, that's good. NPCs should no longer be able to stagger players with a melee attack if the player has a ballistic shield equipped. Control point difficulty will now be more clear. For example, it will say level 1 normal, level 2 hard, and so on and so forth. They said it was a little bit unclear before, so they've made that a little bit easier. Approaching enemy patrols and convoys is now signaled more clearly during control point takeovers, and the control point officer will now revive down players during takeovers and judge you silently. So just from that alone, you can see that indirectly civilians are getting a buff, settlements and civilian damages are getting a buff, and NPCs are generally getting nerfed heavily, to be honest. So you'll find that the open world will be a lot easier. You'll find that missions may actually be a lot easier, especially when the tank meta is coming, kind of. So yeah, NPCs, you've really got the nerf hammer here. Now, they've gone on to say players can now select the civilian takeover on the map as a respawn option. This will be reset when the NPC leader joins the fight. I think that's a really good addition. Players can now fast travel to civilian convoys and takeovers on the map. The settlement weekly projects now award blueprints. All of them will award blueprints. They won't just be random. The assault drone for PvE will now more actively look for a new target. And the defender drone will now drain more quickly when shot has been deflected. I think that should be good. The defender drone is kind of the meta, so it looks like they've tried to make it so that it's not the meta but still viable, because it will still deflect at least the first shot ultimately, but it won't be the sort of crux of every build at this point, certainly for PvP anyway. Now, the chem launcher gas clouds no longer stack. The revive hive, they've actually fixed a lot more bugs with this, but there are still some that are outstanding, and there probably will still be more, so those are still being looked into, and the revive time has been increased. The base duration of riot foam when used against an NPC has been increased. The scanner pulse cooldown has been reduced from 120 to 90 seconds. I'm looking at use scanner pulse builds because those are pretty strong, and they've made a lot of talent changes which they didn't go over because there are so many. There was 3 pages of talent changes, so when those actually come out, guys, and I've seen them all, I'll probably go do a video on those so you guys can see what's going on. Now, the exotics have having their damage increased across the board, so all exotics will have a massive damage increase. I've already seen that. The pestilence, which my pestilence has about 5.1 base damage. I've seen on the PTS base damage around 15-16k, so they should become a lot more viable. The TAC 50 now has 2 zoom states. No word on a Nemesis nerf or a TAC 50 buff, so yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, going on to PvP, the armor boost has been reduced by 50% and the damage boost as well. Players are now scaled to the max world tier gear score. PvP, there is going to be PvP and PvE specific balancing, which they've mentioned before, but they just wanted to reiterate that. The assault rifles now has a 1.25 PvP modifier. The damage modifier has been reduced from 70% to 40%, meaning there has been a significant increase in time to kill, and this is something they're still going to keep working on, so they want feedback. The skill modifier has also been increased. Now, moving on to the DZ, contaminated loot bosses now guarantee a contaminated loot drop. Higher challenge landmarks can drop multiple contaminated items. Normal veteran and elite NPCs have had their drop rate lowered, but have a very high chance to drop contaminated loot. And if you didn't know, guys, contaminated loot is kind of the best loot in the sense that it gives you the best quality stuff. Now, brackets have also been changed from level 1 to 30 and all world tiers, meaning there's only going to be 2 brackets now, so all DZ servers should be more populated. And because it's normalized, at least for 2 of the dark zones, if you are just a level 5 going into the dark zone, it'll be fine because you'll be normalized up to level 30, so you should be able to compete, although someone at level 30 might have a talent that you've not got yet, and so there might be a little bit of disadvantage, but ultimately it does mean that everyone can compete no matter what level they're at. Now, the rogue timer has been removed, or the cooldown's been removed. The 5-second timer will still be there. Thieves' Den, you can now change weapons, and the Occupied Dark Zone has a separate PvP modifier. They didn't actually say what that separate PvP modifier was. They just said, test it out, let us know what you think. So we'll have to test it out, I guess. They've reduced the DZ XP to 35% of your current DZ rank when being killed. The neutral lighting setting will be coming back. This is not DZ related, this is just in general, which I think is great because this worked very well in the Division 1. It's going to be different for the Division 2, but it's going to be coming back, which is great. They've actually fixed the weird bounty arms. They're going to now be gone, so that's a shame. And there's going to be vast improvements to texture streaming on console. Again, that's really good. I've actually noticed a lot of texture problems on console on my Xbox One X, so I'm glad that they've made those changes. And there's going to be a lot of bug fix coming as well. They didn't mention any, but there's going to be pages upon pages of bug fixes. And that's pretty much it, guys. Now, I would give you my opinion on this, but this video is already running at 15 minutes. So I'm going to leave it there. I want you guys to let me know what you think of all of these changes in the comments down below. And once all the patch notes comes out, I will look at everything. Whatever I've missed, I'll cover. And I'll probably do quite a lot of videos about what I think about the coming meta, which appears to be a tank meta. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching all of this. If you haven't liked the video, again, please do. It does help me out a lot. I appreciate all of your support. And of course, until the next one, Epic out.